I mentioned earlier local control because the Department of Education, the State Board of Education, cannot go into a school district as is defined in legislative process, cannot go into a school district and make them do A, B, or C. That is not how the state of Ohio runs its public schools. So we can enter in when we're invited, we can participate in the conversations, and we can continue to support and look at the work. I think that you bring up one second issue, and I know that there seemingly right now seems to be a direct connection, but there's also a greater issue that we're facing not just in Cleveland but around the country. If you saw a recent New York Times article, you saw the tens of thousands of teachers who are being laid off across this country, and that is a huge issue. So we have a greater issue to face on the numbers of teachers that are being reduced, not just in Cleveland. It's happening. We have a whole list at the department of many school districts across the state, but certainly even across the country who are losing teachers. So we have two issues here to face. On the fiscal side, I will tell you that the State Board of Education has been very aggressive with the legislature in terms of supporting school funding. The governor and the legislature in the last biennium budget really tried to hold as fast onto school funding as they could, given the economic reality. So I think you have two different issues there, and we are working tirelessly at the department level, both in terms of the funding level as well, helping to assist schools, whether they're going through transitions or whatever. But again, we've got to figure out what are those kind of conversations or dialogues that could occur, and how to open so that you're not feeling as though you're left out of the process. But I cannot come in as the state superintendent and demand that Cleveland or Cincinnati or Shaker Heights does anything. So we've got to work together in that.
Ms. Delisle, I was very inspired by your vision of the breadth of education. I did not follow how you plan or how you see ways of assessing that breadth. It's easy to, as a layman, I can say it, it's easy to measure math skills, but these other 21st century skills seem to be vastly harder to measure. So how would you do that?
Sure. Actually, it's a great question, Carl, so thank you very much. We actually have been engaged. There are 21 school districts for the last 2 years who have engaged in a project in Stanford University in exactly this topic. And it's called performance-based assessments. So these school districts have been working with Linda Darling-Hammond on assessing those kinds of higher-level thinking skills, the cooperation, the work ethic, responsibility, how do you work in a team together on a performance that actually is a direct result of the lesson at hand. So for example, one I sat in on recently were a group of English teachers from various high schools across the state who had given their who had worked with another discipline in their high school on a particular subject area, and they came up with a performance rather than a paper pencil test. And then those teachers had gotten together to figure out, okay, so how do you assess what it is that the students learned, both from listening to things to, in on conversations of students, to a self-reflective piece where students talked a little bit about what they were learning, in addition to some kind of measurement and a written reflective piece also to talk about communication, and then to look at other ways for students to demonstrate the knowledge from the content that they had learned, but you can get, for example, from their speeches or from the papers they were writing or the kinds of documentary film that they were producing, that they were in fact engaging in higher order thinking skills. So we're very pleased with the work that's been going on. That's included in our Race to the Top application to expand that performance-based learning across the state of Ohio and make it available for everybody, not just those 21 districts. It's pretty exciting to listen in on those conversations.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Hills, and I'm a parent at the Cleveland Municipal School District. And one of my children attend John W. Raper. They got an award from the state of Ohio for best practices. They were interviewed by the U.S. Department of Education. There are great things going on there. You won't tell it by the report card, but I wanted to mention it to you because I think it's an excellent school for Race to the Top funding and be an excellent model in order to bring a school from point A to point B, because there's a lot of community involvement with churches and things of that nature. I know that we are under mayoral control, but my question is to you is, and it kind of extends from his question, what is a parent to do when you are not seeing kind of the things that you would like in the process for your child's education? Because with my daughter's school closing, she's being rerouted to a school that's lower performing than the school she's at. And just announced Tuesday, they're talking about 40 to 1 ratios. So what can we do to keep this from happening? Because 40 to 1 or 45 to 1 in a classroom is not conducive to learning.
Thank you first for sharing the information about your school, and I want to congratulate Dr. Sanders, because they were one of the school districts who did in fact sign on during Phase 1 for Race to the Top. They were one of the first schools to submit their memorandum of understanding, and we haven't received it yet, but I'm certainly looking forward to receiving it again from you, Dr. Sanders. So that would be the third homework assignment that you have. But to get to your other question, there is nothing more powerful than a group of parents and community members who comes together to support their schools. And I'm sure that just from what you've shared with me, you don't come at it from a kind of combative kind of way, but looking for solutions that are going to really work for children. And, whether it's with the school closures or even if the school closures didn't occur in Cleveland, there's still a responsibility of community members to come together and to proactively look at ways to enhance their school, whether it's through volunteerism or gaining some additional resources or just being available on a daily basis with your child's teacher for your child to support your child's education. So I would suggest that I'm sure that there are other parents in your school who are feeling whether it's disengaged or sort of frustrated over this situation, because I'm sure the entire city of Cleveland does. It's devastating news, and as I mentioned, it's devastating across our country. So I would begin by talking with the principal, starting to talk through what are the transition plans for children to go to another school, and I'm sure that they are already in place and they've thought about those, and also offer your voice. How can you be better informed, but also how can you help other parents to work through the transition, and ensuring that you're seeing it through the eyes of your child.
Hi, my name is Dante Gresham. I'm a student at Martin Luther King Career Campus, and I'm also part of the Promise program. And my question is, the Ohio Supreme Court 3 or 4 times has deemed it unconstitutional the way we fund public education. What new strategies can we implement to help change this practice?
I was hoping you wouldn't bring up funding. That was probably the one topic in the room we didn't want to address, but thank you very much for being insightful. You are absolutely accurate on the Supreme Court rulings, and if you look at that, the decision by the Supreme Court, one of the difficulties that they posed back to the Ohio citizens was that they never gave what the recourse ought to be. So since the last decision, many people across the state have been reflecting on that to see what would be the solution. We believe that the components of House Bill 1 as they've been presented through what's called the evidence-based model actually meet that criteria. They may not in the way or as deeply as people would have wished, but we believe that with the current funding formula, we're well on the way to responding to that court case. And there's still not enough money, so.
Mrs. Delisle, you haven't lost it. You're terrific. You're still
she was
great
my former
as usual.
mayor. Thank you.
I'm Burl Roshaw, the former mayor of University Heights. But my question to you in that House Bill 1, the new core program, whatever it is American history or civics one of them? Because the kids that I have found don't know their American history. And if you don't know your history, you lose a lot in this country, I think, if you don't know about the Constitution, the founders, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, it's actually included, and in the new social studies standards that are going before the board in June, they are very well aware of that. It's been brought to their attention many times. So not only is it included, but we have great overseers on the state board because they've been hearing about the need for American government to be included in the new standards. Yeah, and we've actually been working with a variety of groups across the state of Ohio to get their sense and their perspective on that.